Hello everyone. Welcome to Dead Time Stories. I know many of you enjoy listening to these videos as you fall asleep. So before you drift off, I'd love for you to leave a comment letting me know where in the world you're tuning in from. And if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Alright, now let's get comfortable, relax, and dive into these true creepy stories. Story 1. The Last Ride. Rain pelted the windshield in rhythmic bursts as Allison Granger tapped the screen of her phone. Her Uber app had been loading for what felt like an eternity. It was close to midnight, and the fluorescent buzz of the bar she just exited still lingered in her ears. Outside, the streets of East Portland glistened under the wet streetlights, emptied of the usual nightlife buzz. Her phone vibrated. Driver Marvin. Toyota Camry. 4.96 stars. Arriving in 3 minutes. She tucked her soaked hair behind her ears and stepped back beneath the crumbling awning. Her breath made little clouds in the cold, and her fingers were nearly numb. She glanced at her reflection in the bar's window, smudged eyeliner, tired eyes. Allison hadn't meant to stay out this late. She had work in the morning, but Katie had insisted on just one more drink. Headlights cut through the fog and rolled to a stop in front of her. A black Camry, just like the app showed. The windows were tinted darker than usual, but she recognized the license plate. She opened the rear door and slid in. The interior smelled faintly of lemon-scented cleaner and something else, like cold metal. "Marvin?" she asked, squinting at the back of the driver's head. A pause. Then a deep voice, smooth but hard-edged, replied, "Yep." "Allison?" "Yeah. Thanks." She exhaled and tapped her seatbelt in. "Back to Belmont and 37th, please." The driver didn't respond. He shifted into drive, the car gliding away from the curb like a shadow pulling loose from the night. Allison tried to shake the unease prickling in her chest. Maybe he was just quiet. That wasn't unusual. Still, something felt off. The route the app showed was simple, 15 minutes, mostly straight down Stark. But within minutes, she noticed they weren't heading west. They were drifting south, away from the main road. This isn't the right way," she said, her voice cautious but firm. The driver kept his eyes on the road. "Detour. Accident on Stark. This is faster." Her heart gave a small, involuntary jump. She glanced at the app. The GPS hadn't updated. Still showed the original route. "There's nothing about an accident on the app," she said. Silence. The Camry's interior lights were dim. Allison could just barely make out the dashboard. No mounted phone, no route navigation. Just a series of stickers covering the passenger side of the dashboard. They looked like old rideshare permits. All different years, different cities. Phoenix. Cincinnati. Buffalo. Her mouth went dry. "Where's your phone?" The driver didn't answer. Didn't look back. Just kept driving, now deeper into the industrial outskirts of Portland, where old warehouses squatted behind chain-link fences, and the streetlights thinned. Allison's hands fumbled for her phone. No signal. "Okay, this is freaking me out," she said louder now. "I want to get out." No response. The car didn't stop. Then she noticed it, the small, neatly stitched letters on the back of the driver's collar. VH. Allison froze. The app had said Marvin. This man wasn't Marvin. "Stop the car right now or I'll call the cops," she shouted, panic rising in her throat like bile. The man spoke for the first time in miles, voice low and deliberate. "You think they'll find you out here before I'm done?" Allison lunged for the door handle, fingers scrabbling desperately against the slick chrome. Locked. She hit the button on the door panel. Nothing happened. No click, no change. Her breath started coming in panicked gasps. "Let me out! Right now!" The driver didn't flinch. His hands remained steady on the wheel, eyes fixed forward like he was on rails. The car turned down a narrower road, unpaved, choked with overgrowth on either side. Trees leaned inward, their limbs bare and skeletal. They looked like they were holding secrets. Allison grabbed her bag and rifled through it, trying to find something, pepper spray, anything. Her fingers closed on a metal pen. Pathetic. She twisted around to look out the rear window. No other cars. No lights. Only their tracks in the mud and the shrinking city glow behind them. "Where are you taking me?" she yelled, her voice cracking under the strain. The driver didn't answer. "Please," she said, her voice now soft and trembling. "You don't have to do this." He finally turned his head slightly. Just enough that she saw his profile. In the pale green wash of the dashboard lights, she noticed something disturbing. His cheek bore a thin white scar that ran from the corner of his eye down to his jaw, puckering slightly at the lip line. "You don't remember me, do you?" he said quietly. Allison blinked, stunned into momentary silence. What? 6 years ago," he said, as if narrating a bedtime story. "Outside Dawson's Market. You were laughing. You knocked into a cart. Spilled everything." Her throat went dry. She searched her memory, trying to rewind to the day he was describing. A flash surfaced, rain, a cart tipping over, a stranger yelling, her friends tugging her away while she laughed and brushed it off. Oh God. That was him? "You look, I didn't mean anything by that," she said quickly. "It was stupid. I'm sorry. I didn't even realize." "You didn't care," he said, his voice like iron shavings. "No one ever does. Just laugh. Walk away." A sharp veer to the right slammed Allison against the door. The car skidded down a muddy slope, hidden between a patch of fir trees and abandoned construction equipment. Ahead, a dilapidated storage building rose from the shadows, its corrugated roof half caved in. Allison pounded the window, screaming now. "Help! Somebody help me!" The Camry jerked to a stop. The man got out without a word, the sound of his boots crunching gravel echoing like gunshots in the quiet. She reached across to the driver's seat, trying the front door, locked. She beat her fists on the window. Then she saw him walk around the front of the car. In his hand was a long metal pry bar. Her body jolted into action. She threw herself between the seats, kicking at the dash. One of the dashboard stickers came loose and fluttered down, Uber Gold, 2017, but it had someone else's name on it. "Help me," she whimpered, as he reached the passenger door. It clicked open. The door creaked as he pulled it wide, shadows folding around him like a curtain. The pry bar gleamed under the dome light. He looked even taller standing outside the car, hulking and still, his breath misting into the night like steam from a vent. Allison screamed and kicked, landing a desperate blow against his arm. The metal bar clattered from his grip, thudding onto the floor mat. He snarled, more beast than man, and lunged forward. She clawed at his face, nails raking across the old scar. He shouted, stumbling backward. That 1 second was all she needed. She threw her body out the open door, slamming hard onto the wet ground. Her knee exploded in pain as it twisted awkwardly on impact, but she didn't stop, couldn't. She scrambled to her feet, limping, half running toward the tree line that bordered the overgrown lot. Thorns tore at her jeans, branches snapped in her face. Behind her, she could hear him crashing through the underbrush, rage given form. "Allison!" His voice thundered across the trees, wild and feral. She didn't look back. Not even when her legs threatened to buckle. Her lungs burned with cold, damp air as she pushed deeper into the forest. She ran until the sounds of pursuit faded, replaced by the wind rustling through the dead leaves and the distant sound of water trickling. She came to a stop beneath a moss-choked tree, heart hammering like a war drum. Her phone, Where was it? She reached into her coat pocket. Dead? Of course. She hadn't charged it before going out. Tears stung her eyes, hot and bitter. Think, she whispered to herself. Think. She looked around. The forest wasn't deep, and if she could find a road, any road, she might flag someone down. She limped toward the sound of the water, hoping it might lead her somewhere. Minutes passed. Then an hour. Then longer. The forest opened into a clearing, and on the far side, mercifully, she saw the glow of headlights in motion, a two-lane road. Civilization. Allison burst from the trees and stumbled into the road, waving her arms. A pickup truck skidded to a stop, horn blaring. The driver, a middle-aged woman with silver hair, jumped out, shouting something. Allison collapsed to her knees, sobbing. "He tried to kill me," she gasped. "Please, help me." The woman helped her into the truck, wrapped a blanket from the back seat around her shoulders. "We're going to the sheriff's station," she said. "You're safe now." But even as the truck turned and the forest fell behind them, Allison couldn't shake the sensation that he was still out there, watching, waiting. The sheriff's station in Holcomb County was a squat, two-story brick building that smelled faintly of old coffee and mildew. The deputy on duty, a young man with a buzz cut and tired eyes, took her statement carefully while she sipped hot tea and kept her hands clenched around the mug. They dispatched cruisers to the area she described, but by morning, they found only the abandoned Camry. The plates were fake. The VIN number scraped off. No fingerprints. No blood. Just a single sticker inside the glove box. Driver ID, VH, deactivated 2019. How the hell does someone keep driving this long after being kicked off the platform? The deputy muttered, shaking his head. Allison didn't respond. She was staring at the worn sticker, her mind spiraling. She never found out his real name. Never saw his face in any wanted bulletin. But sometimes, in the dead of night, she'd check her rearview mirror and swear she saw a black Camry 3 car lengths behind her. Every time, it vanished by the next light. Every time, her hands would tremble until dawn. Because he had promised something in that quiet voice of his, something she could never unhear. "You think they'll find you before I'm done?" He hadn't finished. Not yet. Story 2, 5-star writer. Colin Mathers had never driven for Uber before that night. Technically, he wasn't supposed to. The account belonged to his cousin Lucas, who was out of town and needed someone to keep his rating up. Colin had just been laid off from his warehouse job, rent was due, and Lucas promised he could keep all the tips if he didn't screw it up. "Just follow the app, be polite, and don't talk too much unless they talk first," Lucas had said. "Oh, and if you get this one guy, Donnie, he's weird but tips like $20. Real picky about silence and clean seats." Colin had nodded, not really listening. He just wanted gas money, and maybe something greasy after his shift. It started like any other night, cleaning out the car, making sure the app was logged in under Lucas's name, setting up his favorite Spotify playlist, quietly. His first 3 rides were uneventful. A girl from the airport, a drunk couple arguing about tacos, a guy who reeked of vape juice and said bro a lot. Then came the ping. Rider Donnie. Pick up, 11:42 p.m. Location, Briarcliff Apartments, Unit 302. Destination. Pending. Colin squinted at the screen. No destination? He shrugged. Maybe the guy would say it in person. He pulled into the cracked lot of the Briarcliff complex, where half the lights didn't work and one of the buildings had a tarp nailed across a fire-damaged roof. His headlights swept across stray cats and broken glass as he idled near Building C. 11:42 on the dot, the front door opened. A man stepped out, dressed in all black, slacks, collared shirt, dark gray windbreaker zipped to the chin. His skin was pale, almost sickly. His hair was perfectly combed, parted down the middle like an old photograph. He moved slowly, deliberately, as if counting each step. Colin unlocked the doors. The man slid into the back seat without a word. "You Donnie?" Colin asked, already knowing the answer. "Yes." "You got a destination, or?" Donnie didn't reply. He simply leaned forward and tapped the screen of the mounted phone. A new destination appeared instantly. Colin frowned. He hadn't even felt the app update. He glanced at it. 1229 Cypress Hollow Road. "Cool," Colin said. "That's up past the lake, right?" Silence. Colin shifted in his seat, clearing his throat. "All right. Here we go." The car pulled away from the complex and into the quiet arteries of the city. As they passed under flickering streetlights, Colin stole glances in the mirror. Donnie sat upright, hands folded neatly in his lap, eyes fixed on the back of the headrest. He didn't blink much. Colin reached to turn up the radio a notch, just to break the silence. But before he could, Donnie spoke for the first time. "I prefer no music." Colin froze, hands still hovering. Yeah. Sure. No problem." He turned the volume down to 0. They drove in silence. As the car slipped past the edge of the city, the surroundings grew darker, quieter. Cypress Hollow Road was a long, winding stretch past the lake, flanked by thick woods and the occasional shuttered summer cabin. Colin noticed the street lights were getting sparser, replaced by towering trees that seemed to lean in closer with every mile. He gripped the wheel a little tighter. Donnie hadn't moved since they left. Still upright, still staring forward. The only sign he was even alive was the soft, rhythmic sound of his breathing, steady, almost mechanical. Colin cleared his throat. "So, you from around here?" "No." "Cool. Just visiting?" Another pause. "You could say that." Colin chuckled nervously. "Man of mystery, huh?" No answer. He forced himself to focus on the road. Cypress Hollow curved hard to the left ahead, hugging the edge of a steep hill. To the right, the lake shimmered in the moonlight, still and black as ink. Colin glanced at the GPS. The destination was less than 5 minutes away, but it didn't say much, just a pin dropped in the middle of nowhere. No house number. No label. "You sure this is the right address?" he asked, trying not to sound freaked out. "Yes." The voice was calm. Certain. Absolute. Colin swallowed and kept driving. A moment later, Donnie leaned forward, his pale face now inches from the rearview mirror. His eyes locked with Colin's. "You've been very professional," he said. 5 stars. Colin blinked. Thanks. That matters to me. I only ride with 5-star drivers. Appreciate it." Donnie leaned back again, folding his hands in his lap. They rounded one final curve and reached a clearing. The GPS chirped, "Arrived." There was no house. No mailbox. Just a wide gravel lot surrounded by tall pine trees, with a rusted chain-link gate hanging crooked on its hinges. Beyond it, a dirt trail led into dense woods. Colin parked. "This is it?" Donnie opened the door. He paused with one foot out of the car and turned his head, speaking without looking back. "Don't wait." Then he stepped out and walked toward the gate. Colin leaned over the passenger seat to watch. The man didn't hesitate. He slipped through the bent opening in the gate and continued down the path, swallowed quickly by darkness. Colin sat there, engine idling, mind reeling. Who the hell was this guy? No flashlight, no phone, no bag. Just walking into the woods in the middle of the night like it was nothing. He shook his head and put the car in reverse. "Not my business," he muttered. He didn't see the other car pull up behind him. Didn't hear the door open. Not until it was too late. A cold breath of air swept across the back of Colin's neck, and then came the voice. Low, raspy, and wrong. Don't move. Colin froze, one hand still on the gearshift. His heart jumped into his throat. In the rearview mirror, he could make out a silhouette, tall, broad-shouldered, standing just outside the open passenger door. I didn't see you there, Colin stammered, forcing a nervous laugh. I was just leaving. Driver for Donnie? The man asked, stepping closer. Colin caught a glimpse of his face now in the dome light, gaunt, sunken eyes, teeth yellowed and uneven. He wore a brown canvas jacket streaked with something dark. Mud? Oil? Blood? Yeah? Colin replied cautiously. Then you need to come with me. Colin blinked. Excuse me? The man reached into his jacket. Colin's instincts screamed. He slammed the car into drive and floored the gas. The tires kicked up gravel as the car lurched forward, narrowly missing a pine tree. In the rearview mirror, Colin saw the man stumbling back, cursing. A flash of metal glinted in his hand. He had a knife. Jesus Christ! Colin breathed, knuckles white on the wheel. His heart thundered as he sped back the way he came, the narrow road twisting like a snake beneath his tires. Branches scraped the sides of the car. He didn't care. He just needed to get back to town. Back to people. Lights. Sanity. His phone buzzed on the dash. Incoming call, Donnie. Colin stared at it, jaw slack. The screen kept ringing. He jabbed at the decline button, hands shaking. Another buzz. This time, a notification. New Uber request. Rider Donnie, pickup, Cypress Hollow Road. The exact spot he had just left. Colin swore under his breath and hit decline. Another one came through immediately. Then another. Again and again. Each time he declined, it reappeared, pinging insistently. The app had locked his screen. He couldn't exit it. What the hell is going on? Then his headlights illuminated something in the road ahead. A man. Standing motionless. It was Donnie. Colin slammed the brakes. The tires skidded on damp gravel, and the car fishtailed before jerking to a stop just inches from the man's polished shoes. Donnie stepped forward unfazed. I said not to wait. Colin fumbled for the gear's shift again. Donnie raised one pale hand, and the engine cut out. Everything went silent. The headlights blinked off. The dash lights died. Even his phone screen went black. Colin sat frozen in the dead silence, breath fogging the windshield. Then Donnie opened the door and slid back into the seat behind him. The car somehow restarted. On its own. Drive, Donnie said softly. Colin's foot moved to the gas pedal like it wasn't his own. The wheel turned beneath his hands. The Camry rolled forward slowly, as if under a spell. His breathing was ragged now, chest tight and eyes darting wildly between the road and the man seated behind him. What the hell is this? Colin managed. Who are you? Donnie didn't answer. The car continued along Cypress Hollow, but this time it was different. The trees were too still. The road too smooth. The world outside the windows felt unreal. Like a painting of a forest, not a real one. Colin noticed the GPS wasn't showing a route anymore, just a frozen screen, a blinking blue dot inching toward not. To what? Colin nearly screamed. To finish the route. Donnie leaned forward, and his reflection in the rearview mirror didn't match his position. His face stared straight at Colin, but his eyes were wrong. No whites. Just endless, glistening black. You drive. I ride, he said. Until we reach the end. Colin's heart thudded painfully. I'm not. This is insane. But deep down, something in his bones already knew. Knew this wasn't a man. Wasn't even alive in the way humans are. There was no customer. No pickup. This had always been the destination. They drove for what felt like hours. The night no longer passed like normal time. Colin couldn't tell if he was hungry, or tired, or even breathing properly. There were no other cars, no signs, no stars. Just the road. Endless and silent. Finally Donnie spoke again. "You're doing well, Colin." "How do you know my name?" he asked, throat raw. "You gave it. When you took the wheel. The account. The identity. It doesn't belong to you, but you wore it anyway. And that's the key." Colin's mind reeled. Lucas. The borrowed account. His cousin's warnings, vague as they were. Was that it? Had he accepted something meant for someone else? "Why me?" he asked, barely above a whisper. Donnie smiled, just a twitch of the mouth. "Because Lucas wouldn't. But you did." Suddenly, up ahead, a fork in the road appeared. One path veered right, into what looked like fog, thick and choking, roiling across the ground. The other path was pitch black. No light, no horizon. Just a void. "You choose now," Donnie said softly. "What?" "Left or right. Doesn't matter which. There is no exit. Only destination." Colin slammed the brakes, this time finding resistance, but the car slowed. It allowed him this choice. He sat in the middle of the fork, eyes flicking between the fog and the darkness. One might be fire, the other ice. One death, the other madness. And then he heard it. A familiar voice, faint but distinct. "Colin? Please, don't do this." His cousin Lucas. Colin's breath caught in his throat. "Lucas?" he whispered, eyes wide. There was no reply, just that echo, trembling in the air like a ghostly ripple. The voice had come from the fog-covered path to the right. It sounded distant, like it was being transmitted through water. But it was him. He was sure of it. "How is that possible?" Colin asked, turning in his seat, staring back at Donnie. "How is he here?" Donnie tilted his head, expression unreadable. "He came close once, but he refused the ride." Colin blinked. "You tried to take him?" "I offered the wheel. He declined. But someone had to pay the fare." Colin's mouth went dry. "So you came for me?" "You put on his skin," Donnie said calmly. "You wore his name. You took the route meant for him. So the road shifted." Colin gripped the wheel, knuckles blanched white. He stared down both paths again. Fog on the right, absolute black on the left. The fog stirred now, curling and twisting. Within it, he saw flickers, shapes, limbs, half-seen faces pressing outward, dissolving before they could take form. The left path was even worse. It had no end. Just a hunger. A nothing that felt like forever. "Is there a way back?" Colin asked. Donnie leaned in, close enough that Colin could feel the unnatural cold pouring from his skin. "There's always a way back," he whispered. "But not for free." Colin turned to him. "What do you want?" Donnie gave a small, amused smile. "The same thing I always want." Then, he lifted a pale finger and tapped the dashboard screen. It flickered to life, not a map this time, but a list. Riders. Hundreds of them. Names. Ratings. Pickup points. Faces. Faces he didn't recognize. Some looked wrong. Blurred, distorted. Some had no eyes. Some had no mouths. Colin scrolled, panic flaring in his chest. One name stood out near the top. Colin Mathers, 4. 89 stars, 9 rides completed. What the hell? The moment you accepted, you became part of the fleet, Donnie said. Your car is on the network now. But not the one you know. Colin looked up at the fork again. What's in the fog? A loop, Donnie said. Endless pickups. You'll drive them all. And the black road? The void. The shortcut. No pickups. No end. Colin laughed, a broken, bitter sound. So either I drive forever or disappear forever? Donnie nodded. But there's a third way. Colin turned slowly. You finished the ride. I am finishing the ride. No, Donnie said softly. Your ride. Not Lucas's. Yours. Colin's chest felt heavy. What do I have to do? Donnie smiled wider now, and for a moment, his teeth looked like rows of tiny steering wheels, rusted, jagged, spinning. You know who deserves the next ride. Pick your rider. Take their name. Let the road shift. Colin felt something buzz in his palm. He looked down. The Uber app had reopened. A rider was waiting. Rider Lucas. Pick up? Y/N. Colin stared. His cousin? Colin's heart hammered. Lucas, his own cousin, was now the next rider waiting on that ghostly list. The familiar urge to protect his family warred with a terror so profound it nearly numbed his senses. His eyes darted between the glowing prompt on the phone and the unnatural calm of Donnie, whose smile deepened as if pleased by this cruel twist. Accepted, Donnie coaxed softly, his voice echoing like a command from another realm. It is the only way to untether yourself from this endless ride. Colin's mind reeled. In his panic-stricken haze, the situation seemed surreal. A borrowed ride transformed into a spectral conveyance, a road inhabited by echoes of riders, and now, his cousin's name shimmering ominously on the screen. The screen pulsed faintly, as if alive, beckoning him to make his choice. He closed his eyes. For a heartbeat, he recalled lazy afternoons with Lucas. Laughter shared over coffee, brotherly debates about trivial matters, moments of genuine connection. That memory shook him with unexpected warmth. Yet, a darker voice inside warned him that accepting might mean surrendering his free will, consigning his soul to an eternal loop of macabre rides. The thought of trading his identity for another life on this haunted road was unbearable. Lucas, he mouthed silently to himself, fingers trembling as they hovered over the screen. With each passing second, the phone's prompt grew insistent. Pick up. Y/N. He dared a glance at Donnie, desperate for reassurance. Instead, the man's eyes glowed with an eerie calm, as though he already knew the path that would unfold. There is no choice but acceptance, Donnie intoned. Your fate is sealed by the ride, but you may choose how you end it, or what comes next. The vehicle shuddered on the silent road, as though spurred by an unseen force. Colin's grip tightened around the steering wheel, his knuckles blanching white. Even in his terror, a stubborn resolve stirred within him. Perhaps, he thought, the only way out was to try to control this ride, even if it meant playing by the rules of a nightmare not his own. With shaking determination, Colin tapped the screen. Yes. In that instant, a low, resonant hum pulsed through the car, setting Colin's nerves alight with dread. The GPS flickered, then reanimated with new data, a detailed list of stops, each marked by names both familiar and grotesque. His own name, stamped on the screen in luminescent green, now lay at the top of a long, cryptic itinerary labeled Final Rides. Lucas's ride, however, was marked with a single exclamation point. The coordinates it pointed to were nowhere near the network of abandoned roads he'd witnessed thus far. A shudder danced along his spine. Was this a chance at redemption, a final rescue to break the curse? Or another meticulously crafted snare meant to claim another soul? The car eased forward as if on autopilot, and the fork in the road ahead began to converge, the endless void parting to reveal a faint glimmer of street lamps. The gloom receded into a murky backdrop of indistinct shapes that hinted at a township, a place where Lucas might be waiting. Hang on, Colin whispered, his voice cracking with both fear and determination. I'm coming, Lucas. Outside, the night morphed again, shifting as if summoned by his resolve, and the ride, the endless ride, continued toward a destination that might hold the key to unraveling this living nightmare. The tires thumped onto asphalt that looked real, felt real. Street lights blinked overhead, casting thin pools of amber glow onto the cracked surface. A gas station passed on the left, its flickering. Open 24 hours. Sign oddly reassuring. This wasn't the suffocating, surreal highway Colin had been trapped on. This looked like home. Familiar intersections. Closed shops. A dented mailbox he'd passed on bike rides as a kid. He swallowed hard. "Where are we?" he asked, more to himself than to Donnie. Donnie didn't reply. He sat still as ever, a shadow wrapped in clothes, barely distinguishable from the darkness of the car's interior. The GPS chirped once more, arriving soon, Ryder, Lucas. The pin dropped over a house at the end of the block. Colin blinked. He knew that place. It was his Aunt Carol's, where Lucas used to live before moving out last year, where they'd spent every Thanksgiving, sprawled on the living room floor, passing mashed potatoes and inside jokes like sacred rituals. The car slowed on its own and pulled up to the curb. Porch lights spilled across the yard, and the screen on the dash updated. "Please wait." Ryder approaching. Colin peered through the windshield. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the door creaked open. Lucas slid into the passenger seat. He looked older than Colin remembered. His face was pale, eyes sunken, like he hadn't slept in weeks. A 5 o'clock shadow darkened his jaw, and he wore the same denim jacket he always had, but it hung looser now, like it was a size too big. Like something had hollowed him out. "Colin?" Lucas whispered. Colin turned, relief flooding him. "Jesus, man. Are you okay?" Lucas stared at him, confused. "Where have you been?" "I've been trying to." He froze mid-sentence. His gaze shifted to the rearview mirror. To Donnie. All color drained from his face. "No," Lucas said, voice trembling. "No, no, no, what did you do?" "I took your shift," Colin said. "You said you took the ride meant for me?" Lucas's hand shot to the door handle. It didn't budge. The locks clicked shut. Donnie leaned forward slightly, the air in the car dropping 10 degrees. "This was always going to be your ride, Lucas. But your cousin took your place." Colin turned toward Lucas, panicked. "I thought I could save you. Or stop it." Donnie chuckled, the sound dry as ash. "You can't save someone who already rode." Lucas pressed his forehead against the glass, breathing hard. "Colin, you don't understand. I did take the ride once. Months ago. I accepted the pickup. But before we got to the destination, I jumped out. Rolled right into a ditch off Cypress Hollow." Colin's blood ran cold. "And what happened after that?" he asked, voice low. Lucas looked at him, eyes wide. "I've been haunted ever since. Woken up to engine noises outside my window. Black cars parked across the street. I deleted the app, changed phones, moved cities. But he kept finding me." Colin's heart began to pound. "So this is a loop?" "No," Donnie said softly. "It's a network." Colin and Lucas turned toward him in unison. Donnie's face remained neutral, but his eyes burned like embers. "There are hundreds like me. Thousands. And millions like you. Every ride has a cost. And every escape spreads the infection. Colin took your debt. But he hasn't paid the fare." Colin's voice cracked. "Then what happens now?" Donnie leaned back. "That depends," he said, "on whether you're ready to become a driver full-time." The engine revved, on its own. The screen flashed. "New request, rider unknown." Lucas and Colin stared at each other. The screen showed no name, no location. Just coordinates. Destination undisclosed. ETA forever. The car began to move. Colin's foot wasn't on the pedal, but the engine obeyed some other will, gliding them away from Aunt Carol's house and back into the dark, The town blurred past the windows. Familiar streets now stretched unnaturally long, houses flickering like frames from a corrupted film reel. Trees bent toward the road like eavesdropping giants. Colin gripped the wheel again, more out of instinct than control. "I didn't sign up for this," he muttered. Donnie didn't respond. He simply tapped on the seat beside him with one pale finger, counting out an invisible rhythm. Lucas turned to Colin, breath hitching. "Listen to me, we can still stop this. We have to force the ride to end." Colin's eyes darted to the GPS. Still blank. No route. Just that pulsing dot, pulsing like a heartbeat. The coordinates didn't even make sense, just a stream of numbers that looped endlessly, as if mocking direction. Lucas leaned in close. "This whole thing, it's ritualistic. A transaction. They offer a ride you accept. But maybe if we break the ride, refuse to deliver the fare, then what?" Colin snapped. "We vanish? Die? Become the car?" Lucas hesitated. "Maybe." The locks clicked again, this time on their own. A familiar ping echoed from the dash. "New rider available, Sarah M. Rating, 5.0. Pickup, Hargrove Children's Hospital, Neonatal Wing." Colin's stomach twisted. No. Absolutely not. The car didn't slow. In fact, it accelerated. Donnie finally spoke. "Refusal of the route results in reassignment. You know the rules." Colin stared at the screen, at the address. "That's not a coincidence, is it?" he whispered. "You want me to pick up a baby?" Donnie's smile was barely visible in the mirror. 5 stars is 5 stars. Colin's fist slammed the wheel. "I'm done playing your game." The car jerked suddenly, veering sharply off the road. Trees whipped past the windows. The vehicle barreled through a ditch and skidded to a stop in a clearing thick with mist. Silence. The engine idled, a low growl beneath them. Donnie leaned forward between the front seats. "You've chosen the offer-out penalty." Before either of them could speak, the car lights died again. Then the temperature plummeted. Frost bloomed across the inside of the windshield. Outside, shadows moved through the trees. And then, one by one, the car doors opened, without anyone touching them. "Colin," Lucas whispered. They didn't get out. But something got in. Shapes. Smoky, human-shaped silhouettes. Dozens of them. They folded into the seats, into the air, into the walls of the car. Colin couldn't breathe. The car filled with whispers. "Ride, ride, take me, next, where are we going, driver?" Colin screamed. Donnie reached forward and touched Colin's chest with one cold finger. "You are the fleet now." And then, everything went black. Colin awoke with his head against the steering wheel. The car was parked in a suburban driveway, engine still warm, radio playing static. The time said 3:13 a.m. He sat up slowly, blinking at the familiar landscape around him. Lamplit porches, sprinklers clicking on, a dog barking in the distance. The passenger seat was empty. The back seat, too. Donnie was gone. Lucas was gone. For a moment, he thought it had all been a dream. A horrible, surreal hallucination from driving too long on too little sleep. Then his phone buzzed. "Uber Pro driver, welcome back, Colin. You've earned Diamond Tier." Beneath it, 1,139 rides completed. Colin stared at it, breath stuck in his throat. He tapped the trip history. All the names were unfamiliar. All the rides time-stamped within the last 3 hours. And then came the final entry. Rider, Colin Mathers. Status, completed. Fare paid in full. Colin dropped the phone. It landed screen up on the passenger floor mat, the app still glowing softly. A new ping echoed. "Next ride, Donnie. Pick up in 2 minutes." Story 3, The Night Shift. At 2:37 a.m., with the city wrapped in silence and mist, Tasha Bloom accepted a ride request that would change everything. She was new to Uber, 3 weeks in. A recent transplant to Chicago after a brutal breakup and the sudden death of her father. Driving gave her something to do, something to focus on. It kept her out of the empty apartment with its unfixed leaky faucet, unpainted walls, and unopened boxes labeled Dad's books and photos. Do not touch. Her shift that night had been long but uneventful. A few bar hoppers in Wicker Park, a tipsy accountant headed to Union Station, and a college student who passed out in her backseat mumbling about his cat. Then came the final ping. Rider Alder. Pickup 1520 West Banyan Street. Destination not listed. Tasha frowned at the address. Banyan Street wasn't on her usual route. It was on the far south side, skirting the old warehouse district, half the buildings abandoned, the other half full of nothing good after midnight. Still, the fare had a $50 tip already attached. She hesitated, thumb hovering over the accept button. And then, as if the app knew she was unsure, her phone buzzed again. A message from the rider. "I'll be waiting outside. It won't take long." Tasha sighed and hit accept. She drove through the city's belly, the glinting towers of downtown giving way to crumbling brick and flickering street lamps. Banyan Street appeared on her GPS like a phantom limb, narrow, badly paved, forgotten by progress. At 3:02 a.m. her headlights fell on 1520 W. Banyan. A 3-story warehouse, red brick, boarded windows, rusted sign that read Van Orton Textile and Dye. Most of the lower level was shrouded in shadow, but one loading bay was open, casting a pale yellow rectangle of light onto the cracked asphalt. A man stood there. Tasha rolled to a stop. The man stepped out from the light. He was tall, rail-thin, wearing a dark trench coat that hung past his knees. His hands were gloved despite the heat, and his face was long, sharp, and symmetrical, unnervingly so. His eyes didn't reflect the headlights. His lips were thin, expression unreadable. He opened the back door and slid in without a word. Tasha glanced at the mirror. "Alder?" He met her eyes. "Yes." "Where to?" A pause. Then he said in a calm, steady voice, "Just drive. I'll tell you when to turn." Tasha gripped the wheel, a chill spidering down her spine. "Sure," she said quietly, and she pulled away from 1520 W. Banyan, not knowing that she was already off the map. They drove in silence. The buildings thinned out behind them, replaced by warehouses shrouded in decay, chain-link fences twisted and broken like discarded rib cages. The air felt heavier out here, humid despite the open windows. A strange scent drifted in, ozone, rust, and something sweet and rotting beneath it all. Alder sat perfectly still in the back seat, hands folded neatly in his lap. He didn't fidget, didn't check his phone, didn't speak. Just stared out the window like he was memorizing the city as it vanished behind them. Tasha tried not to glance at him in the mirror, but her eyes kept flicking back. There was something off about his presence. It was too still, too deliberate. Like he was. "This is an unusual route," she said, keeping her voice light. "I know," Alder replied. "That's why I chose it." Tasha's knuckles whitened on the wheel. "You from around here?" she tried. "Long ago," he said. "But I've been away for some time." Something about the way he said it made the hair on her arms stand up. She flicked on the radio just to break the silence. A soft jazz station whispered to life. Alder flinched. "Please turn that off." Tasha reached for the dial, hesitated. "Something wrong with jazz? I dislike artificial memory." She blinked. "What?" He didn't elaborate. The radio went silent again. They passed under an overpass, its cement pillars covered in graffiti tags and layered murals. One wall caught her eye. A figure painted in smudge black and crimson, tall and robed, standing in front of a car. Dozens of little white figures knelt around it like worshippers. Tasha stared. When she looked back in the mirror, Alder was watching her. "You're curious," he said. She tried to smile. "Just tired." "No," he said. "You want to know where we're going?" She didn't reply. He leaned forward slightly. "We're almost there." Tasha squinted. "There? But we're just—" And then she saw it. Up ahead, the road dead-ended into a tunnel. One she'd never noticed before, not even on GPS. A concrete mall wide enough for a single lane, lit from within by faint yellow bulbs that flickered like dying stars. Above it was a metal sign so rusted only 2 letters were visible. RN. "Turn in," Alder said. Tasha hesitated. "What is this place?" "I told you," he replied, voice low and calm. "A short ride. It won't take long." The tunnel loomed in front of her now, swallowing the road and all sound. Something about it felt wrong. Like once they entered, the world behind them would no longer exist. Her foot hovered above the brake. She could turn around. She could refuse. But then Alder spoke again. "If you don't take me in, another driver will have to. And they may not come back." Tasha looked in the mirror one last time. His eyes had changed. They weren't human anymore. She pressed the gas and entered the tunnel. The tunnel swallowed the car whole. Immediately, the sound changed, like someone had stuffed cotton in Tasha's ears. The jazz of the city, the low hum of her engine, even her own breath, all muffled beneath a heavy, oppressive silence. The concrete walls narrowed around her, stained with decades of water and rust. Yellow bulbs dangled every 20 feet or so, flickering weakly, casting her Honda Civic in anemic bursts of light and shadow. Every bump in the road echoed like footsteps. Every creak of the car's suspension was amplified until it felt like something was crawling along the frame. "How long is this tunnel?" she asked, trying to mask the tension in her voice. Alder didn't answer. Tasha glanced in the mirror. He was smiling now. Not wide. Just enough to show the corners of his mouth stretched a fraction too far. The shadows seemed to cling to his face like film, distorting the angle of his features. His eyes, still fixed directly on hers, were dark and endless, like 2 sinkholes where pupils should be. A tight chill wrapped around her spine. She gripped the wheel harder. "If this is some kind of joke, I'm done. I'll stop the car right here and you can." But when she slammed her foot on the brake, nothing happened. The car didn't slow. She tried again, pressing harder. Nothing. She reached for the gear's shift. Locked. The wheel wouldn't turn either, like it was frozen in place. Her dashboard flickered once. The radio screen blinked, distorted for a split second with strange, geometric symbols. And then, destination, in progress. Do not exit vehicle. "What the hell is this?" she whispered. "You've entered the corridor," Alder said calmly. Tasha looked around. The tunnel still stretched ahead, but it was subtly changing. The walls were darker now, slick with something wet. The lights above no longer flickered, they pulsed, in rhythm with a low thud-thud-thud she could feel through the seat. It almost sounded like a heartbeat. Something moved across the windshield. Fast. Just a blur. But it was outside. Inside a tunnel. She turned to Alder. "What is the corridor?" He smiled, showing too many teeth now. "A route between," he said. "Between what you know and what you've forgotten. Between where you're from and where I need to go." Tasha's breath caught. "Why me?" "Because you're new," Alder said softly. "Because you said yes." She shook her head. "I didn't agree to this. You agreed to pick me up. You agreed to go where I told you. You didn't ask where. You didn't demand a destination." The tunnel grew tighter. The concrete was gone now, replaced by something darker, slicker, almost organic. Veins throbbed in the ceiling above her. The lights were no longer bulbs, they were eyes. Hundreds of them, all blinking, watching her. The whispering began. First one voice, then dozens. She couldn't tell where it came from. The air vents? The speakers? Her own head? She's in the car. This one came willingly. She drives the night shift now. No, she whispered. I'm not staying. I'm not. Then the road tilted. Not a turn. A descent. The tunnel sloped sharply downward, like a spiral. The car accelerated on its own, the dash now showing speeds and symbols instead of numbers. Through the rearview mirror, Alder's face had changed entirely. Longer, his skin a faint iridescent sheen. Horns, or maybe bone spurs, pressed beneath the surface of his scalp. Tasha screamed. The tunnel yawned open ahead of her, revealing a vast, circular chamber glowing with dull red light and filled with vehicles. Dozens of them. All rideshare cars. All circling endlessly. Each with a driver behind the wheel. Eyes wide. Mouths open. Frozen. And in each back seat, something watching them. Waiting. Alder leaned in close. You've arrived, he whispered. The car merged seamlessly into the circular flow, joining the procession of other rideshare vehicles gliding along the massive underground chamber. The chamber itself pulsed with a slow, biological rhythm, like the inside of a sleeping beast. Its walls weren't stone or metal, they were flesh. Veined, glistening, quivering with distant muscle spasms. Each time the walls contracted slightly, the cars dipped just a little lower, as if being pulled deeper into a gut. Tasha gripped the steering wheel so tightly her fingers cramped. Her foot was still off the gas. Her hand nowhere near the wheel. The car drove itself. She forced her head to turn, scanning the other vehicles. A mix of makes and models. All with Uber or Lyft decals on the windshield. All with frozen drivers behind the wheel, eyes open wide, locked in some suspended trance. Their passengers? She couldn't fully comprehend them. Blurred, unnatural shapes, seated upright in the back seats, their heads grazing the ceiling. No two looked the same. Some shimmered like heat waves, others flickered in and out of the visible spectrum. And then there were the ones with no passengers at all, empty back seats, but the driver's expressions, twisted with pain. With regret. Tasha's mouth was bone dry. She blinked sweat from her eyes. Her voice came out hoarse, cracked. Where are we? This is the terminal, Alder replied smoothly. The end of every unbroken ride. Where passengers depart. Where drivers decide. I don't want this, she said. I want out. I didn't. Ask where we were going, Alder finished for her. You agreed to drive. That's all it takes. No, she said. This can't be real. She yanked the wheel hard. It moved, but the car didn't respond. Still, it circled. Again. And again. And again. I'm not staying here, she shouted. Alder's voice dropped into a strange, harmonic tone. Like two voices speaking at once. There are rules, Tasha. You finish the ride, or you become the ride. Suddenly, a glowing glyph appeared on her dashboard, a jagged ring of black light. Beneath it, the screen displayed two options in the Uber app UI. Rate your passenger. And below that, complete ride? Yes, no. Her finger hovered. What happens if I hit yes? She asked, voice trembling. You drop me off, Alder said, but the route remembers you. You'll keep driving, until the road forgets you. Could be days. Could be decades. And if I say no, you take my place, he said gently. You ride. Another takes the wheel. You wait in the terminal until you're summoned again. She looked at the screen. Her options glowed steadily. I can't, she whispered. You must, Alder replied. No one leaves this road without paying the fare. She looked at the rating screen again. 1 through 5 stars. It mocked her. How could she rate a creature like this? She hesitated. And a new option appeared beneath the stars. Transfer ride. Select new driver. Her heart skipped. A loophole, Alder whispered. Rare. But earned. She tapped the option. A list of nearby available drivers flickered to life. All of them grayed out. Except one. Driver Dad. Her father's name. His old profile picture, grinning, a bit blurry, holding a thermos of coffee, smiled back at her. No, she whispered. No, no, no. He'd driven Uber briefly before his death. Before the stroke. Before the silence. Every ride needs a driver, Alder said softly. You can give it back. To someone who's already gone. Who's waiting? Her hands shook violently. The screen asked. Transfer ride to Dad? Confirm, cancel. She sobbed. Was this mercy? Or betrayal? Then she tapped. Confirm. The moment she pressed confirm, the dashboard went black. The car shuddered violently, once, then again, like it had struck something massive and unseen. Tasha braced herself against the steering wheel as every light in the chamber dimmed. The walls groaned. The procession of circling rideshare vehicles began to slow, like gears unwinding in an ancient clock. Shadows stretched across the interior of her car, pulling long fingers from the rearview mirror and the air vents, curling around Alder's form like they were reclaiming him. Alder exhaled. Not a sigh, but a release, as though something had been holding its breath inside him for centuries. You chose blood, he said, his voice no longer layered but soft, almost human again. It honors the road. Tasha stared at him, her throat tight, grief and guilt battling inside her. He's already gone, Alder continued. You gave him purpose. Let him drive once more. That's more than most get. The windows fogged over with sudden cold. Outside, another car detached from the circle. A silver Ford Escape. Its headlights flicked on. The figure inside? A man. Early 60s. Glasses. Kind eyes. Tasha gasped. Dad. Her father sat behind the wheel, expression serene. The same worn denim jacket he used to wear to the flea market. A Dunkin' Donuts cup in his hand. Just like before. His eyes met hers through the misted glass. He smiled. Tapped the steering wheel. Then the car drove slowly forward, toward the far end of the terminal. Toward a massive archway that had not been there before. As the Ford approached, the arch shimmered and opened. Beyond it, light. Not fluorescent or electric, but golden. Warm. A field? A memory? She couldn't tell. Tasha reached for the door handle, half standing. Wait. Wait, can I go with him? Alder placed a gloved hand on her shoulder. You can't follow where he goes. The fare must be equal to the ride. You chose release for him. You remain. Tears burned her eyes. But I didn't mean to. You meant to let him rest, Alder interrupted. And now he does. The silver Escape passed through the arch. And vanished. The terminal trembled. Light dimmed. One by one, the other rideshare vehicles began moving again, circling tighter. The ceiling contracted. The road groaned. Alder stepped out of the back seat, his coat billowing as if caught in a wind she couldn't feel. It's time, he said. For what? She asked, voice barely audible. For the next fare. And then he was gone. Just gone. No puff of smoke. No flash of light. Tasha was alone in the car. The dashboard lit up again. Uber logo. Rideshare mode online. Next request available. She stared at the screen, then at the road ahead. It curved sharply, climbing toward another tunnel, this one ascending. The steering wheel turned under her hands. The engine purred. And far in the distance, a glowing pin dropped. Her next passenger. Her phone buzzed. New rider, Emily M. A little girl's photo. No rating. No pickup note. Tasha stared. Then whispered, "No more." She reached down, unplugged the phone from the dash, and held down the power button. It didn't shut off. The screen blinked. "Cannot exit while route is active." She opened the door. But the world outside was no longer the terminal. It was a suburban cul-de-sac. Morning. Birdsong. Children biking. A man walking his dog. Her car was parked neatly at the curb. Everything looked normal. Her dashboard now read, "Completed rides 1. Status offline." She stumbled out of the car, panting, tears still on her cheeks. Across the street, a mother held the hand of a little girl, maybe 8 years old. Brown curls. Pink backpack. Tasha's breath caught. It was Emily M. But the girl wasn't approaching the car. She was smiling up at her mom, chatting, alive and well. Just a name. Just a possibility. One she never accepted. Tasha looked back at her car. A single message sat on the dash. "You may go. For now. But the road remembers."